Hey, good afternoon, everyone. How you doing today? I'm here solo dolo. The doc is finishing up her vacation. Hopefully, she'll be in the saddle with me next week. We back at another segment. We had our barbershop talk segment last week, and it was interesting. I watched it again for the first time, and it was interesting to talk to brothers at the barbershop, getting different perspective with Dr. King. I just learned more and more about, about COVID and the vaccinations pretty much every day and every time I talk to a doctor. So what makes it better and I guess more enhancing is that we're talking to Black doctors who we basically can relate to, and they know how to speak our language and taking the fear out of still being vaccinated because it's still important. So today we do have a guest. Dr. Kalechi. He was on with Dr. Motley previously a couple months back. We're bringing him back on today, basically for like an update to get his perspective on things right now. And I'm gonna let him introduce himself and tell you a little bit about himself, and we could just go into some questioning. Good afternoon, Doc.
Hello, George. How are you? Certainly good to be with you. Yes, as you said, I have been on this show a couple of times. This is really a great show, and we've been talking about the COVID vaccines but for the older adults today, I think we're going to focus more on the children. So, by way of background, myself, I'm right here in Wilmington, Delaware. And I say that because I moved down this way when I was, in fact, recruited to join a company that DuPont had formed with Merck in the late 90s. Okay, DuPont Merck. So any folks out there who are old enough will probably hear about that. And I say that just to give you the sense that I've been in the pharmaceutical industry for quite a while. I've been involved, from the bench, helping to develop the drugs that some of which people are taking now, including vaccines themselves. So I'm very proud to say that there are quite a few drugs and vaccines that are out there that I personally was involved in helping to develop. So I do have extensive experience with clinical development, and I certainly know quite a bit about these drugs. Even if I wasn't involved in them, I know what it takes to make them, and so I can certainly talk about them. So with that, I'll give it back to you, George.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, good to have you. Definitely appreciate your work. You get your accommodations every day from me. We could just go right into the questioning. I know. Let me ask you: did you get your booster?
Oh yeah, of course, absolutely.
How soon did it take you to get it? Like, was it right away? Was it like, did you have to hesitate or?
No, for me, again, for the work that I do and for what I know about, what vaccines do, I didn't. There was no hesitation whatsoever. I mean, I was. The fact that you had to kind of get the booster right away, well, I would say right away, because putting things in perspective, there are vaccines that you get, right? And you don't get boosted for like 1 year, for 5 years, for 10 years, right? So, but this one, it looks like you need to get boosted 4 to 6 months afterwards, But yeah, getting the booster is good. And the booster basically, every vaccine is obviously different. So you're getting the booster just to make sure that you're keeping the levels of protective antibodies at high enough levels. That's why you're getting the booster, to make sure that you optimize your protection. Yes, I got it as soon as I had the opportunity to do so.
Okay. Oh, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, everybody. I mean, you get your flu shot every year. You get certain things to be able to fight it off and to continuously fight it off. So I totally understand the concept of the booster.
Correct.
So who do you think need the booster? You think everybody should get it, even under certain conditions? Is it pretty much on the same level as the vaccination, or certain select people that should get the booster, or we all should just get boosted?
Well, I mean, right now, I think what the CDC recommends actually is anybody 5 and above can get a booster once you qualify, though. In other words, after you finish your primary series, you can get it. Now, there are certain people for whom the boosters are more critical, if you will. People who may have some kind of immunosuppressive condition or something, or I think 65 and above, people like that. But otherwise, most people, when they qualify to get a booster, should actually get one. Again, the idea of a booster being to make sure that you're keeping your protective levels of antibodies as high as possible.
Right. Okay. All right. Now we're gonna go into the kids thing. I know this is kind of sensitive. I would love to hear your perspective on like the kids and just going forward, with the summer and then going right into the school, back to school season. Do you think the kids need to be vaccinated? Like, I mean, I think it went down to what, 6 months all the way up
Yeah,
until.
it is actually, yes. And we've waited for that. There was a little bit of a delay in the study that Pfizer did. I mean, they first did a 2-dose study, found out that it wasn't as efficacious as they would have liked. So they added a third dose. And then it took some time, of course, to generate, the right amount of data to be sure that it was efficacious in this population, and above all that it is safe in this population. And in fact, so let me use that to also highlight the fact that I mean, people are concerned about safety, as they should be, right,
Mhm.
about anything, and especially with regard to kids. But when you see what is happening, hopefully that will give you some confidence that the system is actually set up to ensure safety, right?
Mhm.
So as an example, you set out your primary endpoints, your efficacy, endpoints that you want to meet. If you conduct a clinical study and you don't meet those endpoints, you cannot proceed. And of course, the FDA isn't going to approve you, because, in fact, those endpoints are set with the awareness and cooperation of FDA. So when you bring your data and you see that your data don't meet the efficacy endpoints, they're not going to approve you. So for the people who are concerned, there's nothing wrong with that. But when you have concerns, it's important to make sure that you're talking to the right people. In the case of children here, you talk to your child's pediatrician,
Mhm.
about your child, about what particular situations that they are in. And unless there is contraindication, like your child has, a special allergic reaction or something, it's actually a good idea to vaccinate them,
Right.
against this virus, just like as with all the other illnesses as well.
Right. Okay. Now, Tyan, she sent us some facts, Doc, and I just want to run them by you. I appreciate it, Tyan. Thank you. It says 10.2 million. Wow. U.S. children ages 5 to 11 have received at least one dose of COVID-19 vaccination, representing basically 36% of 5 to 11-year-olds. So you think what you think as far as that number? Is that a number that we should be okay with for the beginning trial basis period, or we should try to boost that number up?
Well, so let me answer the last question first. We should try and boost that number up, but that number is actually quite encouraging because, like I said when I was doing my introduction, I've been involved. I'm in the industry. I know how these things go. So generally, when you are introducing whether it's a new drug or new vaccine or something, so you're gonna have, let me broadly classify them as into three groups. So you're gonna have early adopters, the people who are generally, as soon as the FDA gives a check mark, they're
Right.
gonna go out there and they're gonna get it.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Right.
And then you're gonna have another group that kind of say, okay, well, they're gonna take a kind of wait and see approach, if you will. They're gonna see if the hands are falling off the people who have taken the drug or gotten the vaccine, things of that nature, and that's perfectly fine. But eventually, though, they're gonna eventually vaccinate once they convince themselves that the vaccine is safe. And then you're going to have the hesitant group. Okay, that's another group. It doesn't break down into a third, but that's generally what happens. So you have that three groups of people. The hesitant group, no matter what you do, they may not get it, right?
Right.
um and they come up with all kinds of reasons why not. And you have that not just for the COVID vaccine, you have it for all kinds of vaccines. Okay.
Right.
But that number to me is actually quite encouraging, and I expect that as time goes on and as the safety of this vaccine is demonstrated more within this population, more people are quite generally going to go ahead and vaccinate their children as they
Right.
should. Yeah.
Okay. And she also set it up for us for the teenagers, well, 12 to 17, and 17.3 million have received at least one dose. So that's not bad. I
No,
mean,
that's not bad at all. And again, when you start getting into the 17, you start having some other dynamics also playing into it now. So whereas the younger, the under fives, they do whatever you want them to do. They're pretty much at the um, you know, uh, depending on what their parents want them to do. Yeah, when you
Mhm.
start getting into the 12 to 17, they're still not quite adults yet, but they kind of have choices, they have knowledge, they have information, they can say things. So you
Right.
can even ask them to do stuff sometimes and they say no.
Right.
So that you have that dynamic going on. But even that number itself is also quite good. And again, I expect that as time goes on, there'll be improvement in that as well.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. I mean, those numbers not bad. And I mean, just as far as basically the parent, Doc, I want you to kind of talk to the parents that's on the bubble, that's hesitant. I mean, pretty much the parent probably was hesitant at one time, but now we're talking about our children. So, I mean, you kind of brushed up on everything, all the points being made. But as far as you're a doctor or physician, just talking to the parents, like, what would you say to encourage them to get their child, vaccinated, and then, of course, boosted?
Well, again, first and foremost, I have to acknowledge that any parent who is concerned about the safety of their children, that's the right thing to do. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, right off the bat, that is the right thing to do. We as parents, when something comes out newly, it's not like the newest toys that you want to rush out and get for your child, right?
Right.
So for things like drugs or vaccines, there may be safety issues, and so you need to be concerned about those. But under the circumstances, though, you want to make sure that your concerns or your fears are well founded, right? And that you're talking to the right people about your concerns and getting answers to the questions that you have. So there are many reasons to want to vaccinate children, right? We want to vaccinate them, not just to protect them against COVID, but also to protect the people who are around them. Because
Right.
when we have children, they are usually parents and sometimes grandparents or even great grandparents. And there may be other people within the household or within their circle um, of contact, that they will be protecting, by being vaccinated. Because if they get the COVID, and I know one of the things that people say is that the death rate or the seriousness of disease in the young children is very low, which is actually correct.
Right.
However, once you get the disease, you can give it to other people. So what if you were to give it to your grandparent or even your parents, right?
Right.
So then protecting the child not only helps to protect the child, but more importantly, other people around him or her. If you notice, one of the hard things about COVID is that it stopped us from interacting, normally. It reduced social interactions. Parents didn't interact with their uh, grandparents didn't interact freely with their
Right.
grandchildren, and so on and so forth. But now that we have vaccine for everybody, it's at least good for everyone to get vaccinated so that we can interact more freely, and in a way that is less risky, if you will. So
Right.
it's advisable for everybody, really, everybody who qualifies. And like I said, right now, the vaccination is there are vaccines from 6 months up, right? And then there are booster from 5 years up. So if you qualify to get vaccinated or get qualified to get boosted, it is advisable to do so, just for the greater protection of the community.
Right. Right. I mean, that totally makes sense. And I mean, to me, it's more important, like going to school. Like the outbreaks at any given time can shut the school system down,
Correct.
send you back to remote. Like it's just, it's just horrible, or virtual. I mean, it's just horrible. Like at any given time, how it can affect our livelihood. So I was a parent that would be on the bubble. I have older children now, but I would definitely recommend it, like for my grandchildren
Sure.
and just for any children. I finally started learning to read instead of just going along with my own personal theories. And it's good that doctors like yourself and Dr. Motley are like being like really persistent about keeping the flow going, about the talk, and just really acknowledge, educating our people. Like it feels good to be able to talk to you. Like I'm being honest. Like there's a black
Thank
doctor,
you. Yeah.
and I'm not prejudiced or anything,
Yes.
but it just feels good to be talking to like good doctors that know, our background. We come from the
Correct.
same areas. We got kind of the same history, throughout our families, and we know why we're hesitant. And Dr. Motley, and people like yourself, you're really helping the public catch up, especially our communities, because
Correct.
we stay kind of morphed into our own little concepts, and be able to hear people of our own color tell us, and letting us know that it's safe. Look, it's cool. Let's just catch up. Let's get it together. I totally appreciate that, man. Yeah.
Yes, and in fact, I like the perspective you shared, and this is really one of the things that people are encouraged to do. Talk to people that you can at least listen to, and have your interest at heart, right?
Right.
I do know that yes, there have been some historical events that have created some doubt, if you will, within our community. However, in today's day and age, more of us are also now involved. In
Right.
fact, in research and doing some of this type of work. So, it's okay to be concerned, but make sure you are speaking to the right people who can give you, good information, unbiased information that you can use to make decisions about your healthcare. Because again, we do know that when you get vaccinated, in fact, in this case, you're not just protecting yourself, you are also protecting the community, because we don't want to go back to a stage where, as you rightly mentioned, if the schools are shut down, there are all kinds of, cascading impact on other areas of our lives. Some people may not be able to go to work because there
Mhm.
are now childcare issues, right?
Mhm.
And stuff like that. So all of us should sort of try and do our part to make sure that the system keeps running and people are able to, go about their lives as normally as we can. It's definitely a new world, but let's just make sure that we don't go back to when COVID was disrupting everything.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, we have to make adjustments. I
Correct.
mean, the same things we do in our everyday life, like, in our home life and in our work life. Basically, life is full of adjustments. So we
Correct.
can't get comfortable, and we definitely can't accept COVID in our life, but it's here to stay.
Yes.
So we have to find ways to defend it and to be able to restore our life. Like, I mean, this is the first summer we basically felt like, that it was normal. I mean, we went down the shore, it was normal. The events, I mean, it's dangerous now on all kinds of levels. But as far as being able to just to come outside and breathe the air and have toilet paper on the shelf, I mean, it's like, it's like a big thing. So we want to keep
Absolutely.
this freedom. Let's keep our freedom.
Correct. Correct. Yeah, absolutely. And each one of us is going to have to do something, do a little bit, contribute a little bit to make sure that we're able to move about freely and react and enjoy each other's company freely. So that's what it takes. That's actually part of what it takes to be in a free society. Sometimes you kind of watch your own activities to make sure that you're protecting your neighbors. That just be a good neighbor, so to speak, right?
Right.
So you do what you can to make sure that we can live normal lives, whatever that normal is. I think we're new normal now, right?
Yeah.
And the good thing is that we have the tools, just like we have the flu, and the flu vaccine that we use to, you know, take care of that. So COVID is likely now going to be sort of endemic, which means that it's going to be around. But we also have the tools, to help manage it in a way that is not as disruptive as it was at the times when we didn't have the tools available to us now.
Right. All right. One more thing with the parents. I just want to. I'm big on the parents because it's great to be back to school time, and I just wanted to know, what do you think is the biggest concern that parents should have about getting vaccinated?
Well, like I said, yeah, getting vaccinated, especially for COVID vaccination, as you know, most schools will not allow your kid to come if they didn't have certain, vaccinations. I
That's
mean,
true.
and we know that we have
Hmm.
sort of lived with that. It could be that COVID vaccination is not one of them. So let's not think anything more about COVID vaccine than it really is. It's just like any other vaccine. It's kind of unfortunate that some people chose to politicize the COVID issue, which is why a lot of people have hesitation and all kinds of. But think about it like any other vaccination, like, measles, that your children have to be vaccinated against before they can even go back to school. They
Hmm.
get vaccinated against COVID so they don't bring COVID or get COVID from other kids at school and they can go and learn. We do know that children are actually best at school, not at home.
Right.
They're not, it's best learning, face to face at school, interacting with their peers and their, teachers and stuff like that. So let us hope that we're not going to go back to the situation where children are learning remotely, because that's not very effective,
Right.
learning system. So if you have concerns about, vaccinating your child, like I said, I understand that, but make sure you talk to the right person. The right person could be your child's pediatrician and any other people within the community that you think can give you, unbiased response to your questions. And then ultimately, hopefully, you end up vaccinating your child, because that's really the best thing to do for them and for you as well.
Right. Wow. I mean, that's great. That would have helped. That would, like what you just said, would have helped me. It really would. I mean, like you said, the kids definitely learn more in a school setting. It's part of the growth. Like it's just part of how things like maneuver in that life, going to high school, going into college. It's a part of like the growth.
Correct.
It's really putting the same word, but great topic, great concept. Doc, I totally appreciate you. I'm glad you're on our side.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm glad you guys are doing this. This is really great service for our community. And, thank you and Dr. Motley for certainly staying there. And this is a great service. And so thank you definitely for doing it. And I wish you continue to do it.
okay. Well, thanks for coming on, Doc. And I'll keep in touch as we get closer to school.
Surely, surely, my dear. So it's good to see you again, huh?
Okay.
All
All right,
right.
Doc. Take care. Thank you.
Take care now. Bye bye.
All right. All right. Okay, Les. We still on. I just wanted to say thank you for everybody for coming on today and checking in with us. Doc, get back in the pocket. We need you. Tyan, thank you in the back. Last, thank you. CMP, thank you for the broadcast. Like, we're just going to keep on the Black excellence. So everybody enjoy your day.